everyone, my name is Cameron and I'm back with another presentation on POP3 and SMTPS. So first things first, what is POP3? POP3 is going to be a service primarily used for accessing messages. It's going to be the server that is allowed to retrieve and organize the emails from the mail receiver server to the computer that is trying to receive the email. POP3 is going to be short for Post Office Protocol 3 or version 3. It downloads a copy of the emails from a local server and then downloads it to the machine essentially. POP3 also works on two different ports, port 110 and port 995. So with that being said, the difference between the two ports are going to be that port 110 is the standard port, but port 995 is going to be the port that is used on the secure network. So what are the major differences between POP3S and POP3? Well, the major difference here is going to be that POP3S is over a secure socket layer, or SSL. Just in case you've forgotten what SSLs are, they're small data files that digitally bind a cryptographic key to any organization's details. Between the two of them, they offer you the option to work with the email server that works more internally and externally. The S on POP3S simply just means that there's an additional layer of security that is provided while using this version over the other version. So it's going to be like the major differences between POP3S and POP3. So next most important thing, what is SMTP? So SMTP stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. SMTP is part of the application layer of the TCP/IP protocol. It provides direction for where the mail goes, essentially. So what that means is SMTP uses a process called store forward, which moves your email on and across other networks. SMTP is responsible for moving your email on and across different networks and is a type of MTA. To go into a little bit further discussion, you might be asking, how does MTA help? Or even better, what is MTA? MTA stands for Mail Transfer Agent. It functions as an agent that helps transfer emails across the server. You will also hear it called or referred to as mail relays. So that's going to be another pretty interesting thing that you'll hear fairly often when referring to the SMPT server. So the differences so far as what we can see is that SMPT is primarily responsible for the receiving end of the email. So it's going to work hand in hand and seamlessly with the POP3. Okay, so some of the primary differences here are pretty big actually. SMTP is used for sending messages, while POP3 is used for accessing messages. So that means the SMTP protocol is primarily responsible for making sure that the emails are being sent across the server and land in the correct spot at all times. While on the other hand, POP3 takes care of how the email is received, stored, and organized for a user to access it. POP3 is MAA, which that stands for message accessing agent. So basically, it coincides with SMTP as a part of the source to help you, or of the service that helps you, an individual, access their emails. While on the other hand, SMTP is an MTA, which stands for message transferring agent. So the next thing is going to be, what is Dovecot? So Dovecot is an open source IMAP and POP email server for Linux and Unix systems. So you might be asking, what is IMAP? I didn't really go into detail about what IMAP is, but IMAP is going to be another server similar to POP that you can use to access emails. Dovecot has several new features. It features flexible authentication, easy migration, and upgraded security features. So some of those upgraded security features help to filter out any malware or spam emails that could be sent through the server. It's a service that's created primarily with security in mind. So the primary purpose here is to help promote a secure server for people to feel comfortable with accessing their emails through. Um, it also has a combination use, which, as I mentioned before, the IMAP. It's primarily used for IMAP, especially when you do a little bit of research on it. You notice that the first thing that does come up is IMAP, but it does support POP3. So Dovecot has a clustered file system compatibility, which means it allows simultaneous modifications of the indexes and mailboxes while maintaining good performance standards. Um, that's a big deal because it essentially adds flexibility for the user in the file system, and it makes accessing the emails a lot easier in turn. Dovecot also works on several different ports, and it also features a version of a secured port as well, like how it does for the POP3S server. Um, so port 25 and port 143 are going to be the non-secured versions of Dovecot that are supported. And port 993 is going to be the one that is going to be the more secured version of the Dovecot port that you can use. Okay, so I decided to include this slide because I felt like this would be very necessary, especially because when I was researching how to install the Dovecot, I got a couple of different ways to do it. While yes, I noticed that there are tons of ways to install, packages and configurations and whatnot for each type of server system, I noticed that this one in particular kind of stood out to me to be a little bit more complicated in a sense. So the first command, sudo apt-get.install dovecot-pop3d dovecot /imapd. So I noticed that at the end it says iPad at the end, or imapped at the end, and from my research, that just seems to be a part of the package itself, considering that IMAP is going to be one of the primary things that Dovecot did work for originally. Um, it's a default in the system, and essentially when you use that command, it's going to default download that service. So the second command that I prompted up there are actually very, very, very important. I also made sure to put it in big bold letters at the bottom. Be sure to configure the Dovecot file with any necessary changes. And essentially that /etc /Dovecot.config or conf. That right there is going to be the file that you're going to be looking for to configure. It's going to be the default file on the system. Once you configure that file and you can decide, wherever you want the mail to go and what path you want it to take, that configuring that file essentially will give you that option. It's also really important to make sure that before you create any files that you check and make sure that there are not any defaults already created. And then for the last one, the sudo service Dovecot restart. What that is it's like everything that we use for the most part. In order to implement any configurations or ensure that everything is working properly or up to your standards, you have to restart it. So after you do your configurations and you save it, you'll use the sudo service Dovecot restart command, and you will restart the system or the server, and test the setup at this point, and then you can see if it works to your standards. If it doesn't work to your standards, obviously you can go back, re-alter the configuration files and repeat that third step again until you're satisfied with how it turns out. So one of the last things I want to mention is postfix. So postfix is going to be an MTA, which is one of the things that I had mentioned earlier, a mail transfer agent. Postfix functions as one of those, or and in a better sense, is one of those. Similar to Dovecot, POPS3 is a server that routes and delivers emails to the host units. So essentially, it's like the name brand version or another brand version of an MTA that you can use to help deliver mail. In addition, POPS3 provides additional layers of security as well as a line of defense, essentially kind of like how what I mentioned earlier with Dovecot, against spam bots, malware, and other emails that can infiltrate our system and make them slow or very annoying or even cause any viruses or spam issues. This particular server is actually primarily SMTP based. Um, so this postfix will be used to coincide with SMTP. Last but not least, I found this video on YouTube, and it's a fantastic source on how to install using ISS, the SMTP server. So I don't own this video. I did not create it, so I want to make sure that in this video I give a big shout out to at Code Cowboy org or .org. This video is phenomenal. He does a great job explaining on how to install. Obviously, I couldn't go through this whole slide and go step by step and try to explain all of his features, because just explaining that took 20 minutes alone. But I just felt like that this was a genuine great resource to offer to the class, so that way you guys have the option to use it and for your own presentations and for your own servers in the future. So again, I'm shouting out Code Cowboy org. That video does not belong to me at all, but you can feel free to follow the link and check that YouTube video out. I also provided the link at the end on the next slide and the citation slide.
Hi, I'll be installing the SMTP server today. So the first thing you want to do is go into Server Manager, and you could access that several ways. You could go into this computer or my computer and click Manage, and it'll bring up the Server Manager, or in Start menu.
So this is my citation page with all of the sources that I did use. I did want to give you guys, I know it wasn't long, but that's a couple of seconds of what the video looked like. Like I said, I did attach the link here. It's also going to be attached in the notes section for anybody that does decide to open up the document version of this file. It's attached there as well, and feel free to use that resource. Thanks.